Dr. Anita McLaughlin, a transformational counselor, mentor, chaplain, author, and entrepreneur. Stay with me as we redefine another diamond moment. Diamonds are produced through time, heat, and pressure. The cut, clarity, and size of the diamond will determine its use. The use of the stone adds to its value. Life's diamonds are produced in the same way, and their value is determined through that same manner. Becoming who you were designed to be is a process, and a process has stages. Now, if you're a diamond, it's time to redefine the previous steps of your process. Thank you for joining me. We've been talking about what's holding you back. The last time we discussed race or minorities and how minorities may be held back. Today, I want us to move forward. Last time we kind of tied up our thought that went back to a previous teaching, which was challenging limiting ideas, and we talked about fear. This time, I want us to go back to another lesson that we did earlier, and that was on redeeming the time. Redeem the time. And in it, we talked about handling your business, taking care of what you need to do for your life is not someone else's responsibility. We talked about superstition and fear and how that plays in to limiting who we want to become. And this time we're talking about and looking at, and especially because we only have a day now, I think by the time this airs, it'll be the following day that we're going to have a large election. And so I'm talking about the things that most people don't talk about. I don't have a problem with that. Part of what I've been positioned here to do is to challenge your thoughts, challenge your beliefs, get you to evaluate what you're thinking and why, and how what you're thinking, where it comes from, whether it's from one of those places of hurt and harm that's occurred in your life that's caused you to limit yourself. Because everything that we do, as I said, becoming who we were meant to be is a process, and that process has stages. So we're going to be looking at the political climate. Are the wrong people in power? Is that what you feel is holding you back? And in that, we really do need to dig in and look deeply. I want you to ask yourself today, are you wrapped up in help rejecting complaining? Help rejecting complaining is a psychological term. And in essence, it means that you are rejecting or turning away from the very help that you're complaining about that you need. It's that yes, I know, but mentality. I want to challenge you to determine to do what you would not do. It may take some time, but in order to accomplish your goals, you're going to have to modify your perspective if you find that there are things that are holding you back. So I want you to examine yourself as we look at just a few little ideas. If you feel that the wrong people are in power and that's what's holding you back, then I want you to once again look at yourself. If you're a person who believes that non-participation in a political system doesn't make a difference, if I don't participate, it doesn't make a difference, then you may need to look at yourself and hopefully come to the place of telling yourself the truth. If you're the type of person who feels as though your voice doesn't matter, then it's absolutely certain that your voice won't matter because you never did what was necessary so that it would matter. For those who live in the United States who have taken for granted your right to vote, and you're yet saying that you're being held back because the wrong people are in office, then truly you must look at yourself. If you feel as though you've been disenfranchised and have done nothing about it, then I would challenge you and say that it's no one's fault but your own. If you're a person who voted against your own interest and then want to complain about what's going on in your environment, it again is time to tell yourself the truth. Now, if we're redeeming the time, why would we allow someone to move us decades backwards in time? Why would we allow someone who can never die our death, why would we let them live our lives? Why would we leave our future well-being to someone who has shown us who they are for generation after generation after generation? And it's to not point the blame at anyone, but to look at ourselves and see how we may have played into a narrative that was less than helpful in our own lives. In the time that I've been listening and making the decisions that I felt necessary for my own life, and I'll share that with you, I looked at a lot of different people. I went back, I live in California. In California, we have sample ballots that come out, and at both the general election and then the midterm election. And I actually go through that information. And if I don't know who the person is, I actually research them. I do Google. I do search. I do find out what that person believes and what they intend to do, what they're standing for. The reason that I do that is because I have a lot on the line. My dad, and I've shared a lot with you guys about my father, but he was a very astute person. He paid close attention to the world and what was going on around him. I know that previously I've shared with you that he would watch the news. And this is the deal. He didn't watch just one station. He said, you have to look at all of the different news services, because wrapped up in the stories are opinions, and those opinions may not be accurate. So in order to get the real understanding, then you have to expose yourself to multiple ideas and multiple concepts. So he would look at the news. He'd come home from work and he'd look at the news, and it'd be, we wanted to look at the popular television shows that were on at the time, and because they were going to be talking about, did you see this or did you see that at school the next day? And it's like we couldn't get to the TV. These were in the days where you had one TV, okay? You couldn't get to the TV because Dad was watching the news. And he'd watch one channel, and then he turned to the next channel, and he turned to the next channel. And our only hope for seeing what we wanted to see was that he would fall asleep, and then we could really quietly turn the channel, because if you let it click too loud, he would wake up and say, turn it back, turn it back. It's like, oh, Dad, you were asleep. You weren't even watching. Yes, I was. And that was like an everyday occurrence. And one day I asked him, I said, Dad, why do you watch the news so much? Why do you have to look at everyone that comes on? And he said something, again, that stuck with me. He said, I do that so that I can take care of my family. I do it so that I know what to expect or how to plan our lives so that you and your brother and your mom will be safe. I look at all of these because I want you to have a better life, and I have to be informed enough to know what's going on. It took me a long time before I really wholeheartedly adopted Dad's habit. But about 6-7 years ago, I found out what he was saying. And I had a very unusual reaction to the last presidential election. And I had this vision, dream, thought that it rolled back into Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. And I didn't understand what that meant. And then, having gone through that period, watched the way that the country has changed, I began to kind of understand what that was. And it was the lawlessness, the way that people have taken things into their own hands, the way that the order of things had been so drastically changed until the society that these people lived in, as we look at it now, was almost unrecognizable. And I had that feeling that this is a period in time in which I really need to pay attention. I need to put myself in an atmosphere of knowledge as opposed to relinquishing the control of my life to someone else. And I began to learn and to grow and to do. For some of my friends, they were already in it. They were involved. They were aware. They were on it. My life was not that way. That becoming process of becoming more aware in this area, I had to initiate for my own life. In this election, I saw how those that you would believe that were shoo-ins to win an election were not necessarily so, and I began to look at why that might be. I saw in a southern state there was an African-American woman who was running for office who lost her bid the last time for a lack of under 450 votes. 450 votes caused her to lose the election. They talked to one of the ladies, one of the people in her district, and she said she just didn't show up. She just didn't. There was another interview with a former U.S. military service member who was a single black father who didn't vote, but yet he was concerned about his early elementary school age black daughter and her life in this country. He expressed that he didn't vote because he doesn't think that his voice will make a difference. He lives in a southern state. He lives in Georgia, where Stacey Abrams and Raphael Warnock are running, and where the governor there has initiated, because of the last election, some of the most restrictive voting rights bills that have ever been signed since the 60s, that he's trying to stop things. This gentleman feels that in Georgia, he can leave the fate of his little daughter in the hands of people who voted to restrict his voting rights, while confessing that he's concerned about his young daughter's, how she will grow up, and he's letting others decide her future. That future ranges from education to healthcare to jobs to opportunities, but he feels like he won't make a difference, so he doesn't vote. One thing is for sure. We can create a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that outcome we will know. I know that your voice will not matter, so I don't vote. And see what happened? Just like I thought, my voice didn't matter, and it wouldn't have mattered if I voted or not. I'll say this, and then I will close. The only thing that evil needs to succeed is for good men to do nothing. Election day is coming. you for listening, and join me next time as we redefine the previous steps of your process. Never forget, becoming is a process. A process has stages. One small change changes everything. So invest in yourself. Please visit my website at www.DrAnitaMc.com. That's DrAnitaMc.com for links and additional information. And please rate the podcast if you're enjoying it.